Who gives a crap? Yeah, that's not really appropriate. Oh, stuff it. Let's go with it anyway.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show and forum. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but you, right there, walking the dog, working out in gym, lying in bed, commuting to work possibly, are a motivated small business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing. And that is how we roll around here. Big show, got a listener question, how to find people to interview. Got a toilet paper seller as my guest to interview. Huh? Haven't said that before. Got a forum update, some good stuff going on inside there amongst other motivated small business owners. And of course, marketing quote of the week. Let's get stuck right in.
Small Business Big Marketing with Tim Reid. smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
Hey, how you going? Just out of interest. I still have my arm in plaster. I still have it in a sling. I am still working very slowly. That's because I'm recording this episode pretty much straight after, same day, I recorded the last week's episode. So not much has changed. I have nothing to report. But what I have found is that it has slowed me down having my right arm in plaster, and it's been a really good thing. I'm just getting stuff done that I wouldn't have done otherwise. So, as I said last week, just been on the phone a lot, been recording stuff, I cleaned out my wardrobe, one-armed wardrobe clean out, but it was good. How's your week been? You winning? It's getting close to Christmas, close to the end of the year. You're panicking about next year? You're feeling good about next year? I am going to guess if you're listening to this show, you're feeling good about next year. I hope so. Big year. Don't know why. Feels good. Feels good that 2015 is approaching and that good things are going to happen to us all. I can't promise or guarantee any of that, but that's just how I feel, and I hope you do too. If you don't, maybe offload some of the stuff. Identify what's making you feel that way and offload it, Delete it, delegate it, or do it. Hey? Just made that up. Quite like that. That could be my marketing quote of the week. It won't be. Maybe there'll be two in this show, and that's the first one. But just checking in to see how you are. I am feeling very excited. Summer's here for us Southern Hemisphere types. Winter's there for you Northern Hemisphere types. So you're pretty cold over in the States and other parts of the world, but we're about to sort of all head down the beach. Kind of happy about that. Anyway, just checking in before we do get in to the guts of the show. So let's do that right now. Let's do a listener question. Jacob Johnson. That's this fellow's name. He hasn't got a business. Well, he probably has, but he's used a Hotmail email address. So I can't give you any little kind of push, little promotion, Jacob, except to say thank you. He says, hey, Timbo, love your show, mate. Just started listening to it. Where you been, Jacob? I'm in its 6th year, 5th year, something like that. I've had a great idea for a podcast. Nice work, Jacob. And looking to get started. The idea for the podcast has come out of my own struggles, and I want to be able to help others as well. Well, already, Jacob, your podcast is going to be a success because it's coming from a place of struggle. It's coming from a problem that you have chosen to solve. So well done, mate. Get amongst it. He goes on to say, my passion is to try to help people get careers started. I'm looking to fill a gap. What I envision, fill a gap. That is a good thing. Hey, if a gap exists, that means it needs filling. So good on you for identifying that. What I envision is to interview hiring managers and recruiters about what you can do to show you're qualified for a position if the requirements for that position are not in your formal work background. Okay, cool. Nice premise for a podcast. Nice and niche. Jacob then says, where I'm having trouble, Timbo, is I can't seem to figure out how to locate the hiring managers and recruiters to interview on my podcast. Any help would be appreciated. I said in last week's episode, advice to a listener, don't make things bigger than they are. This is not a big one, Jacob. It may seem big in your mind trying to identify guests to interview and find them, but you'll be surprised at just how easy it is if you really lean into it, mate. If I were you, I'm going to guess you've got some contacts, mate. And if you don't have a direct contact with a recruiter or a hiring manager, you may well know someone who does. So on the LinkedIn premise that there is 6 degrees of separation between you and anyone else in the world, work on that premise. Knock on doors, ask people if they know a hiring manager or if they know someone who knows a hiring manager, that type of thing. I'd also get on LinkedIn and I'd get on Facebook and put the call out, Jacob, to people saying, hey, listen, starting a podcast. I want to interview hiring managers and recruiters. Anyone know any? That'd be a good thing. Don't just take anyone, though. Be selective, even though you're just getting a show off the ground. Be selective. Once you've got your first guest, Jacob, at the end of that interview, after you've stopped recording, say, hey, listen, you know what my show's all about now. You got a sense for it? Is there anyone in your network you think that I should interview? And ask for a warm introduction to that person. So it's not as hard as you think, Jacob. You'll be surprised at how quickly you get the momentum. I encourage you to get the podcast up. It sounds like a great idea for a podcast. I also encourage you not just to be the interviewer, but to add some value around your interviews. Listen to questions, opinions, editorials, commentary, that type of stuff. Mate, Jacob Johnson, I wish you all the luck with it. Go get them. Hey, quick word from sponsors. This show is brought to you by the very good folk at 99 Designs and Net Registry. We can't do it all ourselves, team, this marketing caper. You got a business to run, so cash flow allowing, and let me introduce you to 2 inexpensive ways of getting some marketing done, then I'd be passing it over. Now, 99 Designs is a competition-based website, a contest, I should say, based website, where you simply post a design brief, could be for a brochure, a car wrap, a book cover, signage, business cards, whatever, and you post that design brief, nominate some prize money, hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars, and designers from all over the world respond to your brief with finished low-res designs for you to see. Not proposals, but designs. You review those designs, you shortlist it, you work with your shortlist. The end of 7 days, you pick a winner. They release the high-res designs to you, and you release the prize money to them. Gotta love that. And you can get your design competition boosted to the top of the page, and you'll get a whole lot more designers responding by using this link, 99designs.com/SBBM. And that'll give you a $99 upgrade and 185% on average more designs being submitted. Hey, and also Net Registry. Get your online marketing sorted over there. They do domain names, they do website hosting, design development, search engine optimization, and anything really to sort your online footprint out, which I know troubles a lot of small business owners, you know. You are who Google says you are, and you want to make sure that your online footprint is significant. Beyond your website, you got a bit of pay-per-click advertising happening, a bit of social media, you know, you've got your SEO sorted, you are getting found for keyword searches, all that type of stuff. So that's what the folk at Net Registry do. Head over to netregistry.com.au and tell them Timbo sent you. All right, let's get stuck into today's guest. And I'll give you a very exciting forum update after the interview as well. Just uploaded some really cool training to the forum, which I think if you're not a member will give you good reason to join. Now, today's guest, Simon Griffiths, social entrepreneur, toilet paper seller. Hey? Never said that on the show before. Probably never say it again. So here's the thing. Lena Van Ray of bikeandblend.com.au hit me up a few months ago with, she sent me some free toilet paper from Simon's business, which is Who Gives a Crap. Now, you got to love that name, don't you? And it put a smile on my dial, and Lena accompanied the toilet paper with a lovely note. She said, I love listening to your podcasts. There's marketing gold dripping from the ceiling. She says, I reckon you should interview Simon from Who Gives a Crap. He sells toilet paper, which comes with 1,200% more puns than normal toilet paper. He donates 50% of their profits to fund sanitation projects around the world in developing countries. He's got a passion for helping people. He must be a good guy then. And it is an opportunity for you, Timbo, to exercise your toilet humour and dad jokes. No, she doesn't say that, but certainly is. I was pretty good, though. I tried to just kind of, keep a lid on it. Sorry. So I did contact Simon, and he's a very interesting fellow. Let me share some of his bio with you. I do like speaking to these social entrepreneur types. They're always so motivated. Simon gave up a dream job offer in 2007, moved to Australia from South Africa, and got immersed in the kind of social entrepreneurship side of things. He has since launched 3 social businesses, all focused on revolutionising the way society thinks about and engages in philanthropy. Kind of interesting. His flagship business is Who Gives a Crap, but he also owns a pub, a social, I guess, what would you call it? Well, all pubs are social, aren't they? But it's a pub in Melbourne called Shebeen, Shebeen. It sells exotic beers and wines from developing countries and donates the profits back to causes in those countries. But I'm here to talk poo tickets. I'm here to talk toilet paper and how he's saving the world one sheet at a time. It's an interesting conversation. Let's get stuck right in. And I started by asking Simon one of those big, big questions. Do you hang your toilet paper over or under?
We're always over. It's definitely the right way.
Is it really?
It is, yeah.
Why?
It's actually how it's designed. So this is something that never gets brought up. But
never.
If you look at the way that traditionally toilet paper gets embossed, the emboss on the outside is the side that's designed for consumption, essentially. And if you hang the roll the wrong way, then you can get the wrong side of the emboss facing upwards.
And you wouldn't want that.
No.
Clearly the emboss has some functional reason for being too, beyond design.
Yeah, so the emboss holds the sheets together is the fundamental purpose of it. Yeah.
Not only are we going to cover a whole lot of toilet humour in this discussion, Simon, but we're actually going to learn some stuff we never even thought was important. Extraordinary, which I'm sure you have, becoming a toilet paper manufacturer. But before we get into that, 2 TEDx talks, mate. Are you the only person to have taken their pants off on the TEDx stage?
I believe I am, actually. Yeah.
Well done to that. It's kind of a Guinness Book of Record type thing or something. I don't know. Good.
Yeah, well, someone had to do it. You've got to figure out a way to get your hits up on your talk, and that seemed like a good one.
It's funny, It's funny how my show works. I had John Yo on last week, who is the curator of TEDx Melbourne and one of the TEDx kind of dignitaries around the world. And I, the week before, had a guy, Christian Smith, who exceeded his crowdfunding project by over 6,800%. And we're going to talk about both those things today. So, kind of weird how the world turns. Now, let's get stuck in. I'm keen to understand, before we talk about who gives a crap toilet paper. Here we go. Why were you busting to become a social entrepreneur? I get accused of dad jokes, so we'll just roll with it, okay?
No, all good. that one just slid straight through. It wasn't,
Good on you.
Wasn't even on the radar.
Right.
I guess, for me, the long kind of version of the story, which I'll try and keep short, is that I studied engineering and economics at the University of Melbourne, but I was actually born and brought up initially in London, then my family moved to Perth when I was quite young. So I moved from Perth to Melbourne to study, and realised pretty quickly as a number crunching economist that it was cheaper for me to spend all of my holidays in Southeast Asia than it was to go back to Western Australia to see my family. And so basically I spent 3 or 4 months of every year living, travelling, doing development work in different parts of the developing world. And so
you had a social conscience, like going through uni, and as a young guy, you kind of a holiday for you wasn't going to lie on a beach in Bali.
Yeah, that's it. So I was really fascinated by kind of everyday way of life in the developing world, and there was certainly a bit of beach lying going on as well. I'm not going to deny that. But I really
what would you do? Would you go and build a house for a family in Cambodia, or what would you do?
It was a bit of a mixed bag, and to be honest, it all started out relatively haphazardly. But I guess I was really interested in the way of life in quite rural areas of initially Southeast Asia, and so I was kind of fascinated by how once you crossed a border from one country to another, everything changed all of a sudden. And where you saw that the most was typically out in once you got out of the cities, you'd start to see how quickly it shifted from more of a urban environment into a rural environment, and then where you kind of see the most poverty in the developing world is definitely in the rural areas. And that was kind of where I guess I was naturally interested. I'm still not really sure why. It was something that I was just fascinated by, and it wasn't something that I necessarily acknowledged and thought about, but it was, I guess, a really kind of natural interest for me.
Daniel Flynn, who a counterpart of yours from the brand Thank You and Thank You Water, talked about a moment in his life when he saw the number of bottles of bottled water that were sold annually versus the number of people that were without clean water annually. And for him, that was a moment where he had to do something about it. Have you got one of those?
I think, the really big eye-opening moment for me was when, as I said, I was in and out of the developing world a lot while I was at university and beforehand as well. And I realized that I'd sort of been in the developing world for a period of about 10 years, going back quite often to the same places. And I hadn't visually observed any changes in the level of poverty that I had seen in that time. And to me, that didn't really seem right. Because obviously we talk about solving these issues, and there's a lot of organisations out there that work in this space. I would have thought that visually you'd be able to observe, a pretty significant shift over a 10-year period. Mm-hmm. And so I looked at the numbers, and I found that we're certainly doing things. Like I saw that adult literacy over that 10-year period had improved from about 759 million illiterate adults. Up to, it had improved from about 850 to 750 million illiterate adults. So a very big improvement over that 10-year period.
But a long way to go.
Exactly, a huge long way to go. So I think I did the maths and worked out that if we continued improving at the same rate, it wouldn't be until about 2085 that we'd achieve global literacy.
So very economist. The economist of you got the better of you.
Yeah, and that's not just literacy, it's the same with sanitation, which won't be achieved until about 2080, and lots of other issues as well. So we talk about solving these social issues, but the reality is that they're not being solved very quickly. And for me, that's kind of what got me. Yeah.
Okay, so the majority of us see the numbers. I'll put my hand up for that one, and don't do anything about it. Was there a moment? Were you in a toilet out the back of Southeast Asia, and what? Was there something beyond the numbers?
It really was kind of this very gradual journey for me, which is quite interesting, because I think for a lot of people it is that moment where they have that epiphany. And certainly, coming to the Who Gives a Crap idea was a slow journey, but the actual idea itself was one of those quarter-second epiphanies where I walked into the bathroom, saw a six-pack of toilet paper sitting there and said, right, that's it. We work with WaterAid, we fund sanitation projects, we sell environmentally friendly toilet paper, and we call it Who Gives a Crap. And I walked out of the bathroom, called 3 friends, and they all said, you've got to do it. It's a really good idea.
The name alone, sometimes I was kind of put my feet in your shoes earlier when I was thinking about this interview, and like the name Who Gives a Crap, you just go, yep. There's an idea there. It's a funny name, but it marries the social conscience with a gag and it's relevant to a product in toilet paper. Like it's just like, I get it. Like it's like if you were going to Hollywood and selling a film, that line would work,
Yeah.
Be a weird film.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you had that epiphany. Where was the toilet out of interest always, Where'd that one happen?
That one was in Fitzroy North in a share house that I was living in
Right.
back in 2010. Yeah.
You're so Gen Y. Share house, North Fitzroy, social entrepreneur. Bet you got a beard.
Oh, of course. What would I be doing without one?
Correct. So, again, before we get stuck into who gives a crap, because that will be fun, but you became a social entrepreneur. You put aside the university. Did you finish uni?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
But I spent 6.5 years at uni, so there was obviously a lot of other stuff going on at the same time, and this journey for me really began while I was there. So
okay, and then you got the big job from memory at McKinsey's. You knocked it back. You go, no, I am going to save the world instead. And you came up, I don't know, you came up with it, but this consumer-driven philanthropy concept, which is where you believe that us consumers can be philanthropists at the same time, and it shouldn't be just left to the Bill Gates and Warren Buffetts of the world, yeah?
Yeah, and I guess the idea there is that we're creating a new channel for people to engage in philanthropy. So instead of, particularly from an organisational point of view that's receiving donations, they're not just relying on donations coming from that single donation market. Now they're starting to be able to attract funds from, the trillions of dollars that change hands in the economy, as well as the donation market. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, what it's all about.
So consumer-driven philanthropy, is that about every business having a social, an aspect of it that is a social enterprise? Or are you a social enterprise or you're a for-profit business?
I think the idea is that it's showing that it's possible to do business in a different way. And I don't think necessarily that every business should be a social enterprise, but there's certainly scope for every business to think about what they're doing in terms of what their social footprint looks like. And then the flip side of that is for the consumer that, every time you go and spend money, you're essentially voting in one way or another. And so it's often an aggregation of these small decisions that we make as consumers that can end up making the biggest difference. So if you think a little bit more and a little bit deeper about every dollar that you spend, then you can actually make a huge amount of impact through your everyday decisions.
Are you seeing that? That's a really strong consumer insight that you've shared there. And do you see that being across generations? Or like I reflect on when I was a young kid, like 10, my concern was the Cold War. That dates me, so I'm 47, right? I talk to my kids now who are young to middle teenagers, and their concern is the environment, is the state of the planet, climate change and all that. That's their number one concern. Give us your insight into how old are you? Late 20s?
I'm 30, early 30s now.
Early 30s.
Yeah.
So what are people of that age thinking when it comes to choosing which brands to buy?
I think, environment's definitely a big consideration, but we've certainly sort of seen that green revolution happen. And I think now we're certainly seeing like this, a layer deeper more into the social space. So looking at how things are produced, what that means for the environment, but also the workers that are part of that process and probably the country where it's coming from as well. So people are starting to go deeper. They're looking at what's on the back of the packs, looking up where inputs are sourced from, how they're fed into the production cycle, who's part of that production cycle. Even how they're transported across countries is becoming something that's more relevant to consumer choices. And this is increasing, and it's only going to continue increasing. So it's I think people becoming more engaged with products that they're buying. And this certainly isn't every single consumer out there, but there's a very big segment of the market that's thinking in this way, and it's certainly growing over time.
I like one of the TEDx talks that I watched you in. You talked about, for a long time, we've always looked for that. We consumers have looked for that intersection between price and quality, and that's where we buy. That's the sweet spot. You've introduced that kind of third. It was a vector diagram, actually. I had to look up what that meant, but my son goes, "That's a vector diagram, there, Dad. What are you looking at one of them for?" But you'd introduced this third circle, which was products that do good. So it was like price, quality, products that do good. The sweet spot in the middle there is where if you're selling something that ticks those three boxes, you're doing okay.
Yeah, and you do have to get the price and the quality piece of it right. If they're not right, then you're not going to have a sustainable product in the long term. But certainly you can start to use that doing good piece to influence the way that people will look and interact with and buy your product.
So we're talking about consumer-driven philanthropy. You got to have quality. I mean, you can't sell a socially conscious product that is poor quality. So you got to tick the quality box. You can't be excessively priced. And you talk about not selling on guilt.
Yeah, the motivation there is that certainly when we started, and this is I think changed a lot over the last 5 years, but a lot of kind of transactions in the social space, and particularly when people were trying to motivate a donation to an NGO or a nonprofit, they were using kind of guilt to, I guess, drive that transaction to take place. And the feedback that we were getting from people was that they were really sick of having that guilt jerked out of them and used in a way to make them feel like they had to do something.
Yep.
And so we said, well, what if you could achieve all of the same outcomes but motivate the sale through something that's different to guilt? And for Who Gives a Crap, that's really about using this kind of fun and irreverent brand that still has all of those, important outputs going on, still doing all of these great things, but we're not selling it based on images of a starving child or something along those lines. We're selling it based on this being a really good product that is designed by people who look at things a bit differently.
Mate, you're selling it on humour.
Yeah.
Well, it's a strong personality, at least. I mean, it might not be the fundamental platform that you're selling it on, but it's got a wonderful irreverence about it and humour. So let's talk about Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. What is it? And we kind of explained how it came about, but what is it?
So essentially, it's just environmentally friendly toilet paper that we sell here in Australia, and we use half of our profits to build toilets in the developing world.
Okay. All right. So explain that model. So 50% of your profits get picked up, and how does that work? Do you have... how do you do that? Where's the money go?
So at the moment we work with WaterAid as our sole beneficiary, and basically what happens is we, at the end of the financial year, in the build up to June 30, we're kind of scrambling, looking at our books, working out exactly what we think our profit will be, and then we make our final donation just before the end of the financial year, where we estimate what our profit should be, and then we're essentially donating half of that. And then we can adjust that once the financial year ticks over, but it means that we can get that donation out before that profit would effectively be taxed.
Yep.
So WaterAid then take that, at the moment use that for their projects in Papua New Guinea, which is the region that we've been focused on as Australia's closest neighbour. And basically, they implement something called community-led total sanitation, where they go into a village, they look at what's required in that village, they start educating the people in the village around the importance of sanitation, clean water, hygiene, washing hands, all of this stuff that we sort of take for granted in the West, and then allow them to come to the conclusion of what they'd like to do, assuming that's around building toilets and putting clean water in. They then help them to raise the capital necessary to make that happen, skill them up so that they can physically build it and maintain it themselves moving forward, which is really important, because if someone isn't there to be able to look after it and maintain it, and that ownership doesn't exist, then it's something that won't happen over the long term. And then build typically drop toilets that are composting, turn into create compost with a toilet top that can be moved once the toilet fills up, and that's basically the end of the cycle for us. Now,
getting this idea up and running, Simon, was no mean feat. You needed to crowdfund. How much was it? $50,000.
Yeah, so we worked out that the first production run was going to cost us about $50,000. So we set up a crowdfunding campaign to pre-sell that.
Onto Indiegogo?
Yep, that's correct, yep.
And?
So we, I guess, realised that we were selling probably one of the least exciting products that exists.
Well, everyone needs it.
Yeah, they do. That was about all we had going for us.
Yep.
So, we obviously thought it was a great idea, but we realized that we needed to have something extra to help people tell other people about what we were doing. And I essentially got roped into agreeing to sit on a toilet on a live web feed until we hit that $50,000 pre-sales target. So we basically set up a webcam with me on a toilet on a pallet in our warehouse, and started screening at 6 a.m. I think on the 8th of July in 2012 from memory. I could be a day out. And we got picked up, fortunately, by national breakfast television here in Australia, and then national print. Very luckily, also got national print coverage across the US, and we were wildly popular in Brazil and Greece for some bizarre reason.
Wow.
And I think over the 50 hours that the stunt ran for, we ended up generating about $1 million of equivalent PR value and had 2.5 million social media hits. And we hit that $50,000 target after, 50 long, sore, incredibly painful hours. And I ended up getting some rest, and then we had a toilet paper company that was ready to go.
So, fantastic idea. Were you sitting around with your two business partners, and that someone just put that on the table? Said, hey, why don't one of us sit on the can until the money's raised? Was that kind of how it worked? We kind of put together our initial crowdfunding video about 6 months before we launched, and realized that it kind of lacked some pizzazz. So lacked an idea.
Quite happy with it. Yeah. And so we thought, we could probably raise a smaller amount of money with this, but we've got quite a big goal here that we need to hit. And to make that work, we actually need to, figure out how to make this better. And at the time, we started talking with some friends about it, and one of our friends knew some guys that worked at an advertising firm called Naked Communications. Uh-huh. And so we had a sit down with them and said, hey, we've got this idea, but we feel like it's not quite there. And they said, well, we'd love to have a crack at this. And so we basically put together a deal where if they helped us to overperform what we otherwise would have done, then they'd be able to share in the upside of that with us, essentially. Mm-hmm. And we put together quite a complicated kind of video, and we pitched it out, and we got someone to produce it for us. And when it came to actually putting together the script, the guy that was working on it said, basically, it's too complex. There's too many things going on here in order to make this idea work. Mm-hmm. And when he stripped it back, it ended up looking very similar to the initial crowdfunding video that we'd shot 6 months prior. So we were kind of, scratching our heads about what to do. And then, the guys at the ad firm said, all right, we've got it. Jumped on a call, and my girlfriend was overseas at the time. And they said, the video is good. All that's going to change is you're not going to get off the toilet at the end of it.
Wow.
And as soon as they said that, everyone on the call knew it was a great idea. We knew it was a winner. And so I had to commit to it. And then a week later, when my girlfriend got home, I said, there's something I've got to tell you, and it's probably not going to involve you quite a bit. And I hope you're okay.
You can visit me.
Yeah.
But just so listeners understand, I'll put these videos in the show notes to this episode. But what you've got is a video that says this is the idea behind Who Gives a Crap, which was you sitting on a toilet on a pallet in an empty warehouse, saying we need to fill this warehouse. We're off on a crowdfunding. It finished therefore, and then at the end, what you've said is, but I'm not going to get off the toilet until we raise the money, and then that's when you go
that's
to
it. So in many ways, it's a classic crowdfunding video where, you tell the audience about your product, your background, why you're the right people to pull this off, everything that's going to do, how much money you need. And then the twist is at the end where we say, and I'm not getting off this toilet until you help us to hit this target. And you can jump on our website and see me sitting on a live web feed. And this is what it's going to look like.
Tell me about the moment. You're on the can for 50 hours, yeah?
Yeah, so
50
from
hours.
6 a.m. until 8 a.m. 2 days later.
$1,000 an hour. I'd sit on the can for $1,000 an hour. But tell me about, was there a moment, how far in, and where'd you cramp? Where was the main cramp?
I still have problems with my left leg on my thigh. Yeah, so I did some fairly serious nerve damage. The problem was that I actually thought that I would end up sleeping on the ground next to the toilet. And so we had like a mattress there that I could kind of crash out on. But when the campaign became hugely popular in Brazil, we were on the front page of the largest Latin American newspaper in the world, which has huge coverage. We actually had just as many hits coming through overnight as what we did during the day. And so obviously people don't want to log on and to see the guy sitting on a toilet to find that he's actually asleep on the ground hugging the bowl. So what we did was basically, say, well, we've got to stay up. And so I think I got about 46 hours in. And I don't know if you've ever stayed up that long, Tim, but basically you start hallucinating at that point. And so I was on TweetDeck on my computer, shifting between social media. All of the little icons started turning into GIF images that were moving around on the screen. And I was hallucinating that there was a shelf next to me to lean on. I'd put my elbow up to try and lean on it and then fall over because there was nothing there. And it got really surreal and pretty wacky. And basically, 46 hours in, I jumped on Reddit and was trying to drive up some traffic. And everyone on Reddit was saying, hold on, so you've been on a toilet for 46 hours and you haven't slept? I'm actually seriously concerned that you're getting close to going into a state of permanent psychosis, and started posting these articles about someone who'd stayed up too long and lost his mind.
Things we do for marketing.
Yeah, and I cracked it and pulled up my pants, turned around, fell asleep on the system. And 2 hours later, we were, Australia was waking up again, and we were on the home stretch from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Love it. So, massive media coverage and courage. The brand is now well and truly, embedded into people's psyche. You've raised your $50,000 and production is underway. That's how long ago? That's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you now?
So we fulfilled our first orders to our crowdfunding supporters in, I think it was March 2013, so last year, about 18 months ago. And basically we thought to ourselves, this is crazy. We don't have a supermarket, so we're just going to be selling this online. Who buys toilet paper online? This is just, a stupid idea. But we also thought that we could potentially use that to our advantage. And so we wrapped each roll individually in quite a fun and unique, well-designed wrapper. We put 3 emergency rolls into the bottom of every box, so you'd know when you're about to run out, solving the age-old toilet paper problem.
Yep.
And we set up a subscription service. So you could sign up for toilet paper because everyone's essentially got a pretty regular bathroom frequency, and we can predict that, and get a regular delivery, and you'll never, ever run out of toilet paper again. And we sent our product out to our supporters, and we had about 3 months supply in our warehouse, which would, allow us to test a few things and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And our supporters did something that we hadn't predicted. They started taking photos of their toilet paper and posting it on social media. And we were getting sent these images of people's dogs jumping over barriers made of toilet paper and their babies playing with product. And someone sent us a photo of one of our rolls on top of Kilimanjaro.
Cool.
And basically, day on day, our sales were doubling. And after 5 days of this exponential growth, we sold out of our entire 3-month supply of toilet paper. And so we realized that there was actually much higher demand for our product than what we initially thought. And potentially selling toilet paper online was a great idea. And it took us about 3 months to catch up. We made our first donation in that time period. And when we sat down with WaterAid, we worked out that every roll that we'd sold to date was providing someone with access to a toilet for about a week, which was an awesome outcome. And then basically we started selling consistently in July 2013. We had 23% month-on-month growth for the next 12 months, so grew incredibly quickly. And basically, we're just constantly trying to catch up with what was happening because we were growing so fast. The subscription
model is really interesting. That's like Dollar Shave Club. Is most of your business, or what percentage of your business on a subscription?
So we kind of think about it in terms of revenue, I guess. Mm-hmm. And our subscribers at the moment are about 25% of our business.
Would you want to grow that? Is that obviously something you want to really build out?
Yeah. So subscription is incredible business because you obviously have repeat customers, which means that they're much more valuable to you than someone who just buys from you one-off, and you know that they're going to come back. The other great part of it from an online perspective is that you can figure out essentially what that customer average value is, and then you can spend money to acquire customers that, as long as it's less than that average value, means that your company is going to grow. So subscriptions are really awesome, and that's something that we're going to be working on a lot over the next 6 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. But we've got a few other things in the pipeline as well.
Because I'm looking at your pricing page now, and you don't make a song and dance about the subscription model.
No.
And you probably couldn't you? I can imagine that being like telcos like subscription.
Yeah.
We're all on phone plans, and I love the idea of subscription for you guys because it just seems to, we'll never run out of toilet paper.
And from a business perspective, it's awesome as well. So we've done a lot of work figuring out how to make that a great experience for our customers, and we're now going through the stages of really refining that from a customer experience point of view, and then we're starting to ramp up what the sales side of it looks like.
2 silly questions. Did you go to the toilet during those 50 hours?
I did, and I actually get asked this a lot. But basically, fortunately, the webcam kept on breaking because we'd get reported for pornographic material or whatever. And so whenever that happened, I'd stand up and stretch my legs and run to the bathroom. So it was happening about every 4 to 6 hours.
That sounds very convenient, Simon. My other silly question, as if I don't ask silly questions anyway. On your video, you said it's got a low PTR, a low poke-through rate.
Yep.
Is that really a measurement of the quality of toilet paper, or were you having a joke?
Oh, that was a bit of a joke, but it is certainly something that we look at when we're doing our quality control as well.
Oh, yes, yes. And how does one test the poke-through rate out of interest?
This is we're getting quite technical now.
Go.
But paper fibers essentially work in one direction. And the tricky thing about recycled paper, which we're obviously very big on, is that when you pulp paper fibers over and over again, they get shorter and shorter and shorter. And to give paper strength, those paper fibers have to overlap. And the greater the overlap, the stronger the paper is. But because it's in one direction, it means that when you pull any paper sideways, it's easier to break than when it's pulled in a lengthways direction. And so the poke-through rate is essentially that the tensile strength of the sideways direction.
Hey, you know your poo ticket, Simon.
What can I say?
Well, exactly. Hey, now let's talk. We've been talking about marketing, but I just want to. I was showing my wife. My wife's into all this kind of stuff. Soph loves. She's got a very strong conscience, and she hadn't heard of it. And in fact, I hadn't heard of Who Gives a Crap until one of my listeners very kindly seeded me with a box of it a few months ago. And I just feel like more people should know about it. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so, well, of course you do because you're the founder and the creator and you want to make a bigger difference in third world countries. But,
yeah.
And you don't have the budgets of the Sorbents and the Kleenexes of the world. I get that. But I'm just trying to figure out why hasn't it got even a name like Who Gives a Crap? I feel as though I should have known about it before I was sent some. What's missing? If you obviously feel that way about it. What can we do? Hopefully getting on this show, we could give you some exposure, but what could we do? What are you doing to really... You need another viral video, don't you? Or something that puts it back on the map.
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting thing for us is we haven't spent any money at all on marketing and advertising. So all of our growth has been viral, and that's essentially through incredible supporters and customers who buy boxes of products and they give rolls away to their family, their friends, and their work colleagues. And so that's what we've relied on to date. And because we grew so quickly initially, and it was literally just me sitting there fulfilling these orders initially across 2 countries because we're in Australia and the US. It took us a long time to catch up. And now we've kind of got to the point where our systems are bedded down. Everything's working really well as a business. And we're starting to think about what that next piece of the puzzle is. And yeah, doing another viral video would be absolutely awesome. And we're looking at other potential avenues that we're interested in as well.
Mm-hmm. What about, you're an online business, what about affiliate sales?
Yeah, so affiliate sales would be good. I think we're quite keen on having a look at Facebook advertising. I think would be really interesting. We've done a little bit of playing around with AdWords and a few other resources. And then I think what would be awesome is if we can figure out how to encourage our supporters who are obviously very passionate about what we're doing already, to tell other people about what we're doing. So if we can somehow incentivize them in a way that they're excited by as well, I think that would be a real winner. So figuring out how to crack the nut on the viral growth, which has already happened quite naturally, but to really kind of accelerate that and get get that working incredibly well.
There's a couple of great examples of just past guests that I reflect on that might be worth. I'll shoot your way, but one is the guys from Black Milk Clothing are doing some amazing stuff in building a tribe who just kind of believe so strongly in their product. The other one is, I was going to say, obviously Daniel from Thank You, but the other one is, and it's just skipped my mind. Damn. The idea of it'll come to me if I stop trying to think about it. The idea, it's funny to say, yeah, we need another viral video, because viral video, you don't sit down and go, let's do a viral video. Like, they kind of they develop a life of their own, don't they?
Yeah, and the thing about them is that they're very, very difficult to create. To get something to go viral is not an easy task at all. And I think that, it's easy to say, oh yeah, we should just create a viral video.
Exactly.
But actually making it happen is, it's a very big endeavour.
Frank Body Scrub. In fact, they're around the corner from you. They're in Cremorne or Richmond. And the girls from Frank Body Scrub, another online business who, have got do you know them?
We've emailed, but we should catch up actually.
You
they would be
should.
really good to talk to.
There's this community building, and again, Rebecca from Street, which was another social business. There's quite a few in Melbourne. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see your brand have a much higher awareness. So when I walked out on the street and said to 10 people, top of mind, give me a toilet paper brand, at least 3 said, who gives a crap? It just deserves it, mate.
Yeah, no, it'd be awesome. That's certainly what we're working towards.
Yeah. Hey, before we finish, so just wrapping numbers around where you're at. What are you? You're 2 years in?
I mean, we've been consistently selling product now for just under 18 months. So we kind of look at our real kind of lifetime as 18 months.
So what was your donation at the end of the financial year, end of June 2014? And how many staff, how many roles are you selling? Give us some numbers.
So we're at the moment working with 3 full-time staff with a 4th staff member joining us next month, which would be fantastic. One of the original co-founders coming back to work with us.
Oh, you're on a roll.
What's been really interesting is figuring out how to make that donation side of it work. So we haven't disclosed what our total donations are, but instead we look at the individual impact, and we're still working to that. Every role is providing someone in the developing world with access to a toilet for 1 week metric. What was really interesting is when we kind of looked at our growth, we found that basically from our first donation to our second donation, the size of the donation grew by about a factor of 10, and we're actually looking at another 10 times growth over this next financial year as well.
Wow.
So that's been pretty awesome because, obviously growing revenue is one thing, but growing profits and for us donations is another. And so that's where we're focused, I guess. Number of roles now is fairly astronomical. We're still obviously growing very quickly. I think this month we will have brought in, just doing the maths quickly on the top of my head, about 400,000 roles to our warehouses. We're warehousing across 4 states in Australia, which gives us next day delivery to about 70% of Australians for free. And it's going really well. We're a pretty serious toilet paper company.
You are, mate. And now I'll leave it to you to suggest to listeners what they should do.
What they should do in terms of, what are you thinking?
Subscribe.
Well, everyone should definitely have a Who Gives a Crap toilet paper subscription. So you can jump on our website, which is whogivesacrap.org, and then select your product. There's a few different delivery frequencies that we suggest based on the size of your family, and then we email every customer before every delivery to check if they're ready. And if they're not, they can delay their frequency and we can adjust it to make sure it's bang on perfect moving forward so that they will never ever run out of toilet paper again.
Love it, mate. You can never have enough. Hey, Simon, well done, mate, on Who Gives a Crap, and I look forward to seeing it develop into the future. And in your own words, at the end of one of your TEDx talks, bottoms up to a better world.
Thanks, Tim.
Oh, you got to love it. Good toilet paper seller come social entrepreneur. Do you enjoy that? I did. He's doing good stuff. He's doing real good stuff. I got top 3 learnings from that interview, thanks to Net Registry and 99 Designs. Number 1, I do love the subscription-based model of selling. The telcos have known this for a long time. They've all got us on phone plans. The internet service providers have known this for a long time. Gym owners have known it for a long time. So it kind of begs the question, what kind of subscription-based model could you introduce to your business? And don't say, my business isn't suited to that. Open your mind up. See what you come up with. Number 2, what's your viral video? I'm not one for every business should have a viral video. Then there'd be no such thing as a viral video. But it's kind of interesting to reflect on what would be your viral video. If you want to have listen to a really great chat, go back a few episodes to Melissa Coker, who created the world's most viral marketing video called First Kiss. Amazing, amazing story. She never set out to create a viral video, but it changed her business overnight. So what's your viral video? And number 3, learning from my chat with Mr. Who Gives a Crap, encourage word of mouth. I don't think we do it enough, but encourage people to talk about you on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. Ask them to leave some feedback or a comment or a statement or a testimonial. You know, it's great when they do it voluntarily, but if they're not, encourage them. Nothing wrong with that. What did you learn from that interview? What little marketing nugget, dare I say, did you learn from Simon and Who Gives a Crap? Head over to the show notes for episode 218 at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and tell me, because I read them all, I respond to them all, and in fact, I get my guest to respond to any comment you leave. Do it. As I said before, the interview team, there is plenty happening inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. I ran an exclusive webinar for members last week with a past guest, Amanda Stevens, who's an internationally renowned speaker. And Amanda and I ran a Q&A session about speaking from stage and how to integrate speaking from stage into your marketing strategy, because it's an incredibly powerful way of doing things. And not enough small business owners do it because many are scared of it. So we worked through a few of those blockages. It was a live webinar. Members could ask questions. They'd also posted a whole lot of questions that Amanda and I answered. It was a lot of fun. I've recorded it, and it's sitting inside the classroom section of the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, along with a whole lot of other training. Many of you send me emails saying, hey, what else is in the forum, Timbo? And I'm just going through it now and telling you some of the topics we talk about. Basically, it's a place for you to post questions and for me and other members to answer. So looking at it now, someone's looking for feedback on their website. Someone's looking for feedback on a blog article they've written. Someone else is looking for a virtual assistant and a copywriter. Someone's sharing some book cover designs they got on 99 Designs, and we're giving feedback on that. Someone has got a shop opening, and we're giving feedback on that. Someone else is asking for help required from those experienced in design. So just lots, any question you have about marketing, that's what the forum's for. Think of it as insurance, having a marketing consultant on call to answer your questions. Head over to crankmymarketing.com and you could be in there quicker than you can say crankmymarketing.com. Righto. Nearly there. The marketing train of gold is nearly pulling in to the station, but I've got an inspirational, a motivational marketing quote of the week. This one is from keynote speaker, marketer extraordinaire, Chris Brogan. I like this one. It's not that motivational. It's just factual. It's just like, yeah, you should. Chris says, no matter what, the very first piece of social media real estate I'd start with is a blog. Yeah! Not Facebook, not Twitter, not LinkedIn, not Google+, not Pinterest, not Instagram, not Snappy, Snapchat. No, get a blog. It allows you to express your opinions. It's a fundamental way of being a helpful marketer. Blogs are ace. I've got a blog, smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. You can check me blog out there. My mate Lukey wrote a very good guest post on Facebook ads on my blog last week, actually. It's doing quite well. Google love blogs. Blogs have been around since the internet started, but they're good. So there you go. That's my motivational quote of the week. Righto, team, that brings us to the end. Almost. Let me tell you who I've got on the show next week. Steve Huey. Ever heard of him? I hadn't. Never. Not until someone brought him to my attention. Steve was a corporate high flyer who loved helping people with their frequent flyer points. So he started a business called, wait for it, I Fly Flat. Gotta love that. He's going to tell us all about it next week. Tell us how to fly flat as well. Love that. That's at the pointy end of the plane, where they've got beds. Hey, a big thank you to Net Registry. Get your online marketing sorted at 99designs.com/SBBM for a very, very special and exclusive listener offer. Get stuff designed. Make your brand beautiful, team. Love to see you inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. That's where us motivated small business owners hang out. We talk marketing. We push each other. We hold each other accountable. We'd love to welcome you in there with open arms. Head over to crankmymarketing.com. And I reckon that's it. May your marketing be the best marketing of all time. I've been your host, Timbo Reid, and you've been listening to the number one marketing show in the country. Well done to you. See ya.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.